I know every operating
At my
system like
last
the
job,
back of my
I
hand.
implemented
I have
when it comes to
25 years of
IT
experience
models.
and have worked with several people from your company. I've been recognized for my passion. My team is everything.
LinkedIn delivers candidates who rise above the rest. With an up-to-date view into shared connections, skills, and interests you won't find anywhere else. See why 86% of small businesses who post a job on LinkedIn get a qualified candidate within a day. Post a job for free at linkedin.com/achieve. LinkedIn, your next great hire is here.
When the holidays start to feel a bit repetitive, reach for a Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry and put your twist on tradition. A bold cranberry and winter spice flavor fusion, Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry is a refreshing way to shake things up this sipping season. And only for a limited time. Sprite, obey your thirst.
The Subaru Share the Love event is on from November 20th to January 2nd. For 18 years, Subaru and its retailers have supported over 2,700 local charities through the Share the Love event. When you purchase or lease a new vehicle during the 2025 Subaru Share the Love event, Subaru and its retailers will make a minimum $300 donation to charity. Visit Subaru.com/share to learn more.
Once, not very long ago, I was respected. I was popular.
Matt, I am kind of interested to talk to you about this song because when this video came out in 2009 for Ringtone, I loved it. I actually think that this may have been my favorite song on internet leaks at the time it came out. Now I've become way more of a Skipper Dan man, but I feel like a lot of people don't like this song that much.
So I have really interesting feelings about this one. And I kind of, usually when we start an episode, I have a pretty clear idea of how I feel about something and how I'm going to rank it. And I kind of don't on this. And it's because there's some things that I really like about it. And then there's some things that a little bit have always bothered me. So let's get into it. I'm excited.
I think I figured it out. I think that the issue with Ringtone is that similar to when we were talking about the Doors, right? This is instrumentally, this is a phenomenal Queen style parody. Like Jim West is channeling Brian May's guitar playing throughout this track in a beautiful way. But Craigslist, I think, is a much funnier juxtaposition of like this super serious band like the Doors doing a 5-minute song about selling stuff on Craigslist. Whereas like, I think Queen is too weird of a band where this just kind of falls a little flat on the like juxtaposition, because we're talking about a band who like on their arguably the most like critically acclaimed album has a weird song like Lazing on a Sunday Afternoon that's just like a like a guy singing into a tin can about like just sleeping on the couch. Like they were a band that had plenty of goofy, silly songs. So like this just kind of, I think it's a dumb topic, and like not a dumb topic in the way that I think Al usually does a dumb topic. It also feels like instantly dated by the time this album comes out from when it was an internet leak.
So there's a funny thing I actually wrote down in my notes here. I was like, has this song aged poorly or great? Because no one uses ringtones anymore like this. Like, this is such a funny moment in time where everyone had custom ringtones. I remember, did you have ringtones?
I had,
like, for specific.
I have something so dorky.
Let's get into the ringtone game.
I only had one ringtone ever that I used. And the ringtone that I had was She Blinded Me with Science. But it wasn't like when things got to where it physically plays a song, not interested. This was like the Keytones version of it, where the song was like crafted inside the phone. And the reason why I bought this ringtone, I had no intention of buying a ringtone ever. And I was watching a VH1 like whatever happened to type special where they were doing all these 80s one-hit wonders. And I found out that Thomas Dolby, who wrote She Blinded Me with Science, is credited as the creator of the ringtone and the Nokia sounds and all of that. So I was like, you know what? I bet one of the first songs that he transcribed to this weird phone-based instrumentation would have been his own song. She Blinded Me with Science. So I literally bought it just so I could tell people about Thomas Dolby creating ringtones whenever they ask me about it.
You know what, Matt? That is impressively, like, you came out the other side even dorkier than the people who did just buy ringtones. Like, I'm amazed because I had loads of ringtones. I was the sort of person who had like a different ringtone for every one of my friends.
Nope, educational only. I bought it for educational purposes. The 99 cents I paid for that one song is probably the first and only time I have spent money on something for the internal part of my phone. Like, I don't do freemium games. I don't do any of it. I'm not interested.
Yeah, and I actually have to say I was so reluctant to pay for that stuff. This is the other thing. He actually makes the joke in this song about, like, I paid $1.99.
Yeah,
I can't not use it. I'd hate to waste $1.99. I paid good money for this ringtone.
Yeah.
I was so not interested in that I learned how to make my own ringtones and change the file types and stuff and embed them in my phone so that I could use them, even though I cut them myself using audio editing software. That was how hard I worked to save spending $1.99 on ringtones.
All right, I may have to see if I can do this real quick because you're reminding me. You're telling stories, and I'm being reminded of how much of a dork I was. Similar to what you're talking about, creating your own ringtones. I didn't create my own ringtone. I created my own alarm clock. Okay, here it is. It's 12 seconds long.
Guys, this is real. This is happening. You're hearing this in real time. I'm about to hear Matt Kelly's homemade alarm clock.
Homemade alarm clock made up of songs featuring Wake Up in the lyrics. So
there's no way Chop Suey is not part of this. Chop Suey is definitely in here.
Chop Suey startled me awake every morning.
Okay.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Wake me up. Wake me up. Wake me up. Good morning. It's a beautiful morning.
It starts with the wake up, like, it's the first thing that plays, and it would scare the shit out of me every
I'm not sure
morning.
how much it reads to the people listening, but Matt Kelly did that. When he played it the second time, it must have gone up 500% in my ears in a great way. That was amazing. That was so great. Wow. So that was just your wake ups. Every morning you woke up to the sound of various artists yelling, wake up.
Wake up, and then good morning, and it's a beautiful
Good
morning.
Wow. Wow. Oh my God.
I should have
All
sold
right, well,
that.
Yeah.
I should have put that on the shop. I don't know what I was doing.
Seriously. Wow. Okay. So we have, I don't even know where to go. We have different feelings about ringtones. But I had a bunch of those, and I would have like every time a different friend called me, a different ringtone would go off, and that was just like a fun. I was, teenager, early 20s. I was like, this is great. And now, I think for most people now, it's like when you hear someone's phone ring and it's some crazy song or some weird thing, you're just like, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
Like, guys, come on.
That's the part that I think aged beautifully with the song, because there is a group of people, let's just call them, I don't know, our parents, who still keep their phones not on silent.
Yes, they always ring out loud.
And you're just constantly like, what? Like, I'm baffled when I go to my parents' house.
Agreed.
And they get a phone call because I know that I've tried to call them and they don't answer. And like, that happens to me all the time because my shit's on silent. Their phone ringer is so loud that I'm like, how do you not know that I'm calling you when I call?
Even now, like, I'm sitting in a doctor's office and waiting room, and the person next to me, their phone rings, and they just let it keep ringing, and they're staring at the phone like they're trying to figure out who this is, who's calling. I was like, mute your phone. Hit any button and stop the sound. You're in a public place. Stop doing this.
Unrelated to ringtones, my anxiety was never higher than You know, I think you and I are basically the same age. We've lived very similar experiences, but in different ways. Have you ever been in a diner in the middle of the night with a friend who wants to show you a really funny video at the loudest volume humanly possible, and you're just like, dude, show it to me in the car, or like
I will not accept that.
I get
I'm
so
not gonna
stressed
do it right
out.
now. It's
so
too much for me.
Stressed. I'm like, no one else needs to know about the video that you're showing me. Like, no one.
Yeah.
Like,
No, I am generally not in favor of people watching anything on their phone in public without headphones on.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's too much. It's too much. The world is plenty loud. We don't need to add this stuff to it. And then, again, I guess you're right. So then I'm landing on this song has aged very well.
Yes.
Because Al knew all the way back now when it was the height of the trend how annoying ringtones can be.
Yes.
So I will give him that. I think that is... despite the fact that very few people use them anymore. And maybe I'm wrong. Do people still use ringtones? I feel like I don't really hear it anymore. And when I do, I feel like everyone looks as I do in their direction with just like, how dare you?
It's
how
pretty
dare you do
embarrassing.
this?
Just
It's
if you're gonna have your phone volume up, just have a good old classic phone ring. Like you don't.
Yeah.
Or you know which one still to this day brings joy to my heart, and I know it's dorky, but doing conventions as much as I do, if I hear like the Power Rangers beat. I'm like, all right, you're allowed. You have something acceptable enough to still have the volume on. And also, like, that's not particularly loud. I'm not being forced to listen to, like, 15 seconds of a song I hate. Every time your phone rings.
Exactly.
Let me ask you this question as well, because we're talking about this being Queen. I think, unlike The Doors, both you and I are, like, unapologetically pretty big Queen fans, correct?
I think Queen is a great band, of course. Yeah.
I have made the argument, and some people, I'm not the only person who's made this argument, that the Beatles are the most important band that has ever lived, but that I think Queen might be the greatest band that's ever lived as far as just a collection of top of their game musicians writing undeniable hits for like decades. Which raises this question. The start of this song is definitely the beginning of Don't Stop Me Now. Like, that's like what it's calling in there. But there's a lot of other pieces of Queen scattered throughout this song that I'm like, what else is in here, right? Because, like, to me, the part where they say ringtone a couple times is 1,000% Bicycle Race.
Yes.
Like, but what else is there that we might be
Well, you
missing?
mentioned, I think the intro is very much Don't Stop Me Now.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, I mean, you know, I do think I don't have any other like really specific references for anything singular here for Queen. In terms of what you were just saying about them being the best, I think that they stuck around a little too long.
Yes. Oh, if they broke up in 81, things would have been phenomenal.
81. I mean, maybe I'll even push it to 84 with The Works, which has, you know, Radio Gaga and I Want to Break Free on it. Like, there's some decent songs like up to there, but then, I mean, they made records up to 95.
Yeah.
Like, it's, you know, the Beatles, I think, not to just compare those two bands, but the Beatles have that rare thing of like they went out completely on top.
Yeah.
So they never had a fall. They never put out like records where it was like, oh yeah, this is not quite as good as like their best days are behind them. Like that never happened.
Yeah, that's the pushback on like the Rolling Stones. The idea that the Rolling Stones, and I admit right now that I am talking about an album that I did not listen to. Mm-hmm. But the fact that the Rolling Stones this past year at the Grammys won Best Rock Album of the Year, I'm just like, that can't be correct.
That's embarrassing.
There's no world where you can convince me that in 2025 the Rolling Stones have still made the best rock album of the entire year.
No, and I mean, you know what? There's like it's harder to stick around. Like when you do what the Beatles did, you put yourself in this position to be legends, or like, you know, a band like Nirvana for different reasons. But it's like if you go out at a certain point, you just become icons and you're frozen in time in this like perfect way. And the Beatles are like that. Queen maybe actually was kind of close to that. but it didn't quite happen for them. And then the Stones, I mean, even Zeppelin, who broke up arguably sort of at the height, but even like their last couple records, people aren't like, oh, those are amazing. Like, it's just not how people feel about those albums. I think Queen are a great, great band, absolutely. And I think they made impressive, like really, really impressive music from their debut on, which you could argue the Beatles even, like the first couple Beatles, I love the early Beatles stuff, but the argument that they took like 4 or 5 records to really hit their stride would not be unfair.
Meet the Beatles is not nearly the debut that the self-titled Queen album is.
Correct.
Like that self-titled Queen album, this is a fully fleshed out sound that they basically stick to for at least a decade and a half before they really start to like, you know, maybe go a little bit disco-y or a little bit new wavy later on. But
yeah, they get into the synth type stuff and move into more of a pop vibe. But still, I mean, yeah, they are, they're an excellent, excellent band. And you know what? In the world of bands that Al has tried to emulate in a style parody, one of the more challenging ones for sure.
Yeah.
You know, Craigslist, him doing The Doors or the White Stripes are bands where it's a little bit more like, not to downplay because those songs are brilliantly done and very, very effective, but you can see and you can, you know, process like what it is that makes them unique in a little bit of a more easily digestive way. This to me feels more like the swing he took on like Genius in France.
Yeah.
Or the swing he took even on Pancreas, musically very different, but like very sophisticated writing, very complex, a lot going on, and trying to write at this level and grab those, like, this is no small feat to try to write a song like Queen. And I will say, from a instrumental perspective, from the band's perspective, I think it is really, really, really good.
Yeah. The vocals, he's not channeling Freddie Mercury enough throughout the song, I think.
He's not. And you know what's funny? I mentioned Pancreas, but I'm going to go back to that again, too, because I think the part that betrays this from Queen the most are the vocals.
Yeah.
Which we talked about on Pancreas as well. I think that the lead vocal is fine.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it. The backing vocals, the harmonies that come in are a little bit too like auto-tuned and compressed and small. Like it doesn't feel like Queen in those moments to me, where the echoes, the everybody, like those moments, I feel like they need to be a little bit more live and a little bit more. It sounds like in this recording that it's just Al's voice double tracked like 10 times. And when Queen did it, you felt like it was a group of people in a room, like it had a life and an energy to it. And I just don't get that on this. And that's, if anything about this song has bugged me a little bit consistently since I heard it, it's the vocal delivery I feel like is just not quite right.
Oh, Hilton stay, your beds are soft and cozy. No lumpy couch, no stiff futon, no shower line at crack of dawn. Oh, Hilton stay, our holiday you're saving.
When you want holiday comfort you can count on, it matters where you stay. This season, enjoy spacious, comfortable rooms and friendly service when you book with Hilton instead. Hilton for the stay.
This episode is brought to you by McAfee.
I got a message that our flight was canceled. But they can put us on another flight, and we just need to confirm our credit card info.
Wait, I got a security alert from McAfee. It flagged that message as a scam.
McAfee's scam detector automatically spots and alerts you to suspicious texts, emails, and deepfake videos. Learn more at McAfee.com/online protection.
This episode is brought to you by Nature's Bounty. Nature's Bounty believes your body is brilliant, naturally designed to thrive, inside and out. For those always looking for new ways to support your health from head to heels, Nature's Bounty has a range of over 400 vitamins and supplements born from 50 years of trust and care. Nature's Bounty. It's in your nature. Visit naturesbounty.com to learn more.
Here's my 30-second story with Guinness. As soon as my sister and I get home for the holidays, we don't even unpack. We head straight to our pub. The bartender already knows our order, Guinness and fries. We laugh all night, catch up with old friends, and walk home with faces sore from smiling. It's one of my favorite nights of the year. That was my 30-second story with Guinness.
Guinness Draft Stout. Please enjoy responsibly. Imported by Diageo Beer Company, USA, New York, New York.
Kraft mac and cheese is the best thing ever. It's even better than pop music. You look just as natural enjoying us at age 13 as you do 55. Kraft mac and cheese. Best thing ever.
We're making an ad.
Napping ads.
I hear that Gary Sinise is free.
Oh, okay, great.
He hasn't worked since 2020.
So, what would be the script that we would have Gary Sinise say for the Napping Through Happy Hour podcast?
Listen to this damn show. Damn it.
The Napping Through Happy Hour podcast brought to you by Geekscape.
Real life, real drama, real time.
I'm Gary Sinise.
That's the ad. That's the ad. That's the ad.
You know, something that we haven't even mentioned. 17 minutes into this.
Yep.
30 years after Al does another one, rides the bus, he's finally coming back to Queen.
I mean, yes. And the Bohemian Polka. Let's not forget about that
that's
either.
Right. Yeah,
I mean,
so
yes,
Queen, he's tackled Queen 3 times, which is a lot
Queen,
for a single artist for him.
We get a parody, a polka, a dedicated polka. I mean, that is completely unprecedented. And other than the Stones, it's slightly different, but yeah.
I mean, we get a polka cover, essentially. It's not even a medley at that point.
So a parody, a style parody, and a polka. I mean, that's as high praise as, I mean, what, REM? There's a couple bands that have that same kind of like a trifecta of like, whoa, they've hit Al has visited this from every angle he could.
Yeah, REM, I think it's been like 2 or 3 polkas, a style parody, and a direct parody.
Yep.
And then we were talking about this when we did Polka Face. I don't know if I count the Pharrell thing. I know that people will be like, oh, well, Pharrell's actually the artist he's homaged the most, but I think that has a lot more to do with how Pharrell's fingerprints were over damn near every pop song in the later
It's
half.
more, that's more a commentary on the state of the music industry, I think, than Al's taste.
Yeah.
But boy, this speaks volumes to Al must really, really, really love Queen.
Yeah.
And it's not a surprise to me that he waited till the end to do this, because this is a lot of work and also a scary. I think to take a swing at doing a Queen style parody, if he missed the mark on this, he would probably feel like he couldn't even release it.
Yeah.
Because boy, would it just not, this really had to honor Queen. And from that perspective, just the idea of right out the gate, I can hear that this is Queen. I know what he's doing. And from start of the song to the end, my vocal issues and a little bit of arrangement stuff aside, this is an unmistakable Queen style parody.
Even
which
in the
that
structure
in and of itself is amazing.
Even in the structure of none of the verses are in the same concept. You know what I mean? I want us to break this down.
God.
You've got the intro where it's once not very long ago, I was respected, I was popular. And we kind of follow that out. And then we get the chorus, the ringtone. Why did I buy the stupid ringtone? Perfect. The everybody, very Queen. The everybody.
I want to back up even one more time, because within the chorus of this song, I would say this section is the chorus. In that chorus, there's 3 separate musical moments. What you said, the ringtone, why did I buy the stupid ringtone? And then it's
I just can't imagine now what
was I thinking at all? That break.
All.
My friends will stare at me whenever I get a call. And then it goes to the everybody's.
Yeah.
That everybody in the world really hates my ringtone. That's 3 different sections of music, really, 3 different musical motifs.
In a single chorus.
In a single section of the song.
Then we get what is probably the only verse, and it's a totally different vibe again. So now it's, when my phone goes off at work, I feel like the biggest jerk, the strangest let me win.
Yep.
Then we go back to this chorus that, again, like you said, is 3 different pieces. Then we get the bridge of the ringtone into the Chinese factory workers, they hate
Well, the guitar solo,
Yeah,
it's a big guitar solo that, Jim West does a really great
crushes
Brian
this.
May.
It's insane.
Like, this is really, really well done. Again, not a guitarist known for being easy to emulate.
Yeah.
But Jim West like stacks the guitars and does these like harmonized on top of harmonized, and it's great. Really well done.
One of the best jokes in the video is during the guitar solo where like this cartoon of Al needs about 7 hands to play the solo.
Yeah. A nice little tribute to Brian there. I like that a lot. And yeah, then that bridge, which kind of has a breakdown, but is this big anthemic, like arena rock vibe. The Chinese factory workers, Muslim women in burqas. That's a crazy. We should talk about those lyrics separately.
Yeah.
That, and then it goes into another, like it builds up. And I wrote down, like, I love from an arrangement perspective, and I don't know if there's a single Queen song he is referencing here. I can't think of it offhand. It feels like that whole bridge section is just building and building and building and building and building. And then he finally gets to one last everybody, end of the chorus. And just when you think it's going to hit the maximum height possible, it goes down to nothing.
Yeah.
It's like everybody in the world, ringtone. And it just ends with this really quiet little subtle ending. Like, wow, from an arrangement perspective, I take my hat off to that. That is like, it's really, really well done, really well arranged. Like, it's surprising the whole time. Every moment of this song is like a weird twist that you don't see coming. In that sense, it reminds me again of Genius in France, which is a song where like I feel like you never know where he's going to go next with something.
You know, I haven't asked this in a long time, but when you were learning the songs for the playthrough, was this a particularly difficult one with how much it changes?
Nightmare. It was a nightmare. Yes, it was, because nothing repeats. Even you were saying like verse 2, which is probably the most like, or verse 1, depending on how you want to think of it.
Yeah.
The when my phone goes off at work, I look like the biggest jerk. That's like probably the most like where one thing just happens for a little while in the song, and still every single one of those like it's like 3 lines per section. At the end of each one, there's like a different little bass fill, turnaround, change of the part. Like nothing repeats the same way twice. The choruses get longer each time. Like the second chorus has more everybody's in it. The first time it ends with that kind of like dissonant. Side note, I love a fun little musical moment here. I didn't think to figure out exactly what he's doing, but at the beginning of the song, when he first sings ringtone, he is using some sort of a dissonant harmony there. I'm not sure if it's a tritone or a weird 7th thing, but like how it goes like ringtone, like it's designed to be an irritating. Like I like the fact that the word ringtone is made to be a little bit like just like a little annoying.
Well, it also, the way he sings ringtone sounds like a pre-cell phone ring.
Yes.
Like
yes.
It's very like here's the thing. I still think this song is fucking brilliant and impressive, while also feeling like I've liked it less over time, which it's kind of, I like this way more than Craigslist, but I feel like these songs almost feel like 2 sides of the same coin as far as my opinion of it. Not that I think the songs are similar, but to me, it's like with Craigslist, I'm like, lyrics are perfect, like concept is perfect. He's nailing the Doors sound. I just unfortunately am not a person who likes the Doors sound, so this song isn't fun to listen to. The flip side is like with ringtone, it's like nailing the Queen sound. This is a band I love to listen to. Why does this not feel like the home run it should actually be?
Yeah, and I agree. I agree with that exactly. I feel the same way. And I think that it might, for me, just be a little bit of that, like, something about the way this is recorded and mixed is just a little bit off to me, and it just doesn't quite hit the way I want it to. From a musical perspective, like, this is ear candy to me, musically. Like, you know, we're coming off of Party in the CIA, which is pop, you know, just sugar the whole time, right? And this is very, like, you know, again, that bridge, the Chinese factory workers, they hate my ringtone, Muslim women in burqas, like that, the melody of that song and how they keep stacking on top of each other, that's gold.
Yeah.
That is beautifully written. That is a again, the sort of thing where you can imagine this song, different lyrics in the hands of another band, Queen, or honestly, I could think of plenty of bands who I think could take a version of this song, or at least that section of it, and be like, oh, this is just a really well-written pop hook.
Yeah.
So it functions as ear candy, and I can listen to it and like smile and be like, this is great, but it's just not quite as... It's just missing like a little bit to make it an absolute home run, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's the lyrics. I don't think the concept is the problem. I like, as silly as it is, it's like a one joke song. You know, it's not like...
Yeah.
But I don't mind that. That's fine.
No, we've dealt with plenty of one. It's honestly baffling. Everything seems to be in place for this to be a top 10 Al original. And it's just simply not. And I think every Al fan in the world agrees with that.
Yeah, I think you're probably right about that. I wish that another one we can add to the list. This has never been performed live,
really,
even across all the Vanity tours. Yeah, and I can only assume that it's a stretch musically and vocally for him, and maybe just they think it's not worth the payoff. Also, all those harmonies, which again clearly on the record is just Al doing layers.
Yeah.
This would be hard to pull off.
This would have been this past tour would have been the tour if you were going to try to do it, because you need the extra guitar players, you need the extra vocalists, you need all
100%.
of those pieces.
100%.
I'm gonna briefly talk about the music video because, again, like I said, we're just in this dead zone of animated videos. I think this is my favorite looking animated video so far. I like the animation style that they use. I don't think so. You know, we talked about Party in the CIA, where I feel like Party in the CIA kind of does have its moments where it escalates the song. CNR, I think, is like one that really does a great job of like heightening that song by physically seeing Charles Nelson Riley doing these insane things. But Ringtone, I don't think, has too many big jokes. Like I said, the multiple hands joke killed me. Probably the joke that made me laugh the hardest was one I had never noticed before, which is in the first, or in the, I guess, only real verse, when he's talking about, you know, when I'm at work, I feel like the biggest jerk. It's the second part when he goes, when it's ringing on the terrace, my neighbors get embarrassed. When it's ringing on the terrace, my neighbors get embarrassed. They're begging me to move out of town. And it shows a woman and her cat. And Al's song starts playing, and the cat pulls a noose up from the railing and starts to put it around its own head. And I was like, that is a dark joke.
I forgot about that. Yeah, that is a very, very dark joke.
And the fact that it's a cat makes it funnier to me for some reason.
Yes. Sorry, this is a hard segue, but I just found this and I have to mention it right away.
Sure.
There is a reference online to a version of Ringtone. This is on the Weird Al Wikipedia, like the Al Wiki, not the regular Wikipedia, that notes that there is an alternate version of this song that is called Ringtone with SSL Comp.
Okay.
Now, I know enough to know that an SSL from my showbiz experience is a type of mixing console that has a compressor built into it that is very old school and the sort of thing that Queen would have used, which makes me think that means there's a version of this song that is mastered or possibly mixed and mastered to sound more like Queen.
Ooh.
And now I really want to listen to it and I cannot find it.
Oh no.
I'm wondering if... hang on one sec. I'm actually going to try to find the old the MC Lars hard drive and see if it happens to be on here. Hang on.
Is the Lars drive there?
I can't believe that I did not see that until right now. That's kind of crazy. The fact that that is listed at all tells me that someone somewhere felt the way I felt the way I am feeling right now about how this song is ultimately produced and how it misses the Queen mark a little bit sonically.
Yeah. Well, because that's not the officially released version, while you're seeking that out, I do want to see where I want to rank this.
Yeah.
And I'm going to use it within the context of this album, where I think that this is my second favorite of the originals. So in no world I'm going to start where Skipper Dan is. There's no world where I'm putting this above Skipper Dan. So let me start to move down the line from Skipper Dan. And
I don't think it's on this hard drive. It doesn't seem like it.
And then you better message Lars and let her know that's an incomplete thumb drive. Okay, so this is still pretty high. I'm curious if it's in my top 20 right now. Yeah, it's number 18 on my Al Originals, which is a little bit higher than I thought I was going to put it. But I'm dropping that between I'm So Sick of You and Your Horoscope for Today.
Wow. Higher than Horoscope.
Yeah.
Impressive. I don't think I'm going to go that high with it. I do agree that, I'm definitely going to put it above Craigslist. And I'm going to put it above CNR as well. Although I think that's a little bit closer to how I feel about where this goes. Yeah, I can't put it above. I'm looking at Don't Download This Song, and I cannot put it above that. I'm going to put it in between My Baby's in Love with Eddie Vedder and Velvet Elvis.
Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense
to me. Just below Eddie Vedder. Yeah, I think that I'm definitely going to do a little bit of research and see if I can find this alternate mix version of the song. That has really captured my imagination. Because honestly, again, we have to judge it on the studio version and not some other version of this track. So that's not going to change my ranking. And again, I really do think this is really well written. Just fun side note, just talking about the year of this. Al's just straight up references an iPhone. And I think that might be the first time Al has ever referenced an iPhone in anything. 2011. At this point, we're starting to get to the point where they're becoming really ubiquitous. And yeah, lyrically, the only other thing I wanted to mention, I know we have to rank the video as well. I'm jumping ahead. Let's do the video and then we'll come back to one more thing here.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to finally let this be an animated video that I put slightly above Weasel Stomping Day. I don't know why. I just really like the animation style. But it's not that much higher than Weasel Stomping Day. I'm putting it between Ricky and Perform This Way. It just can't cross that Ricky line.
That's fair. And see, you know what? I'm gonna go a little lower on this one. Just because I don't mind it. I think it's fine, but this one doesn't quite do as much for me. I'm gonna put it above Craigslist. But I'm going to put it below Trapped in the Drive-Thru. So that's reasonably low for me on my list. Not bad. I also just, for some reason, I never watched this video really. Like, I don't feel like I have that much attachment to it compared to some of the other ones here.
That's the thing that's going to be tough for the rest of us doing this is I don't have much of an attachment to, I would say, 90% of the music videos that we're going to have to discuss from here on out. There's a couple mandatory fun ones that I really like. Fun,
yeah.
But
yeah.
But even with those, I don't like those videos on the emotional, nostalgic level of the 80s, 90s videos. Yeah. Like, they're fun. We're in a whole different world. But you had one last thing you wanted to say.
Well, just the really weird reference at the end of this. So, again, we didn't really go over the lyrics of this song, but I don't really think it's necessary. It's fun. It's a one joke song ultimately about this guy just having a very irritating ringtone. We mentioned I probably should delete it, but for me that would be crossing the line because I hate to waste $1.99.
Yeah.
I love that being the only reason why he won't change his mind about this. But the bridge, with the "They Hate My Ringtone" in the background thing. So Chinese factory workers.
They hate my ringtone.
Muslim women in burqas.
They hate my ringtone.
Starving kids in Angola.
They hate my ringtone.
Even folks with Ebola.
They hate my ringtone.
All the nuns and nannies.
And what does he say here? It's
all the welfare mothers, he says.
Welfare mothers.
All the Pakistanis.
All the Wayans brothers.
The Wayans brothers. What is he talking about? Why is there a Wayans Brothers reference in this? I have no understanding of why that's there.
Well, because every Wayans brother has their own unique flavor, but the one thing they all agree on is that this ringtone sucks shit.
If it's as simple as the fact that the Wayans brothers are also people who hate, and maybe that's just the joke of it myself, like it's all this very serious. I also just love Queen were a band who are big on like rights issues and stuff. So going down this like very like, Live Aid thing. Oh, side note, also just reference one more time the wonderful scene in Weird where John Deacon, bass player of Queen, gets publicly humiliated after another one rides the bus after inviting Al to play with him at Farm Aid, of course. And we know that that's the thing that really happened. Or Live Aid, excuse me, not Farm Aid. Yeah, maybe that's the joke of like all the different causes and stuff they care about. And then he winds up like the final reference is the Wayans brothers.
Yeah.
I had never clocked that before, and I saw that on the lyric. I was like, that is so strange.
I clocked it because of the music video. Because in the music video, it cuts to cartoons of every Wayans brother. And I was like, yeah, that's weird.
Everyone on the land, everyone on the sea, every single person, everywhere, unanimously. Boy, I wish that we all could agree on something.
Yeah. Just anything right now.
Truly anything, even if it was a ringtone.
Yeah.
And I actually like at the end, it's like in the video even, it shows like the world like muting the ringtone and be like, there we go. Problem solved. Yeah.
Well, we wouldn't do this podcast if we didn't have love for Al. So if that ain't love that we have, I don't know what else we've got.
I don't know what love is.
I am correct, right? That's the next one. He doesn't go to another.
Know.
I don't.
I didn't think to look.
Nope, I totally fumbled that. Oh, well.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here. Wishing you a very happy half-off holiday because right now Mint Mobile is offering you the gift of 50% off unlimited. To be clear, that's half price, not half the service. And Mint is still premium unlimited wireless for a great price. So that means a half day, yeah? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.